Chapter 7, You're the Driver. Rule number 1 is easy, Joy declared as she turned to a man sitting opposite George. He looked like a combination of a well-dressed accountant and a mad scientist who could easily pass for Einstein's offspring. Danny, please show George rule number 1, she asked. Danny reached into his large file folder sitting on his lap and pulled out a piece of paper that said, Rule number 1, you're the driver of your bus. Joy thanked Danny and shared how Danny had been made the keeper of the rules. A year ago, he was what I call a corporate zombie, Joy explained, walking around with no purpose and no life. You could have hit him over the head with a sledgehammer, and I don't think he would have noticed, she laughed. Now he's keeper of the rules and helping us move the bus forward, she said proudly. Taking a big swig from a large bottle of water that sat next to her seat, she turned her attention to George. Always remember that you're the driver of your bus. It's the most important of all the rules, because if you don't take responsibility for your life and control of your bus, then you can't take it where you want to go. If you're not the driver, then you'll always be at the whim of everyone else's travel plans. But what about the support of others, George asked. Of course you can seek directions and advice along the way, but remember, it's your bus and your trip. We're all driving on each other's bus, but each one of us has our own bus. The problem today, Joy continued, is that people feel like they have no say where their bus is going or how it's going to get there. Tell them that stat about when most people die, Marty, she directed as she looked in the rearview mirror at a young 20-something man sitting behind the back of the bus. He was dressed in polo and khakis and had a young face with blonde hair that sat on his head like a mop. As Marty pulled out his laptop and started keyboarding and clicking looking for the stat, Joy told George how Marty had come to be their research guy, how they would always get into interesting conversations about life, business, success, or whatever. And like clockwork, Marty would always come in the next day with some important research that shed some light on what they had discussed. They called him the Google Man because he could find the best information on any topic. Here it is, he shouted as he lifted up his laptop for everyone to see the screen. The screen read, More people die Monday morning at 9 a.m. than any other time. Isn't that amazing, Joy asked George, who did not quite understand the significance of this research and just stood silent. Hello, George. I'm going to wake you up today like a shot of espresso, she chuckled. Monday 9 a.m. is when most people start their work week, Joy said passionately. Think about that, George. People would rather die than go to work, she said as the passengers on the bus chuckled. It sounds funny, but actually, it's quite sad. People feel like they don't have a choice, so they give up. But I'm here to tell you today that you do have a choice. Right, folks? She said, rallying the passengers on the bus. You don't have to sit passively by like so many other unhappy souls who let life create them. You can take the wheel and choose to create your life. One thought, one belief, one action, one choice at a time. It's your bus, and you're the driver, and you choose where you're going and the kind of ride it's going to be. Don't you agree, Sugar? She asked. I don't know, George answered. To me, it feels like over time, everyone in your life, including life itself, makes more and more decisions for you. And before you know it, it's not even your life anymore. The government tells me what taxes I have to pay. My bosses tell me what to do at work. My wife orders me around at home. I feel imprisoned by a paycheck and responsibilities. So to answer your question, no. I really don't feel like I have a choice. The truth is that instead of living, I feel like I'm dying every day. Maybe I'll be one of those 9 a.m. Monday morning people, George said. There's no maybe about it, Joy countered. If you continue down this poor me road, you are well on your way to being a Monday 9 a.m. fatality. So what you got to do now, George, is take the wheel and change direction. You may not have felt like you had a choice in the past, but starting now, you will realize it's your greatest gift. And once you reclaim your power, everything, and I mean everything, will begin to change. No one can choose your attitude but you, George. No one else can choose your energy, George. In fact, smile for me right now, Sugar. George didn't budge. I'm not asking you, George. Now smile. So he did, knowing she was one woman he didn't want to see get mad. See, George, you chose to smile, and just by doing that one thing, you changed your energy. A smile changes the way you feel, the way you think, and how you interact with others. The energy you fuel the ride of your life with is entirely up to you. And as the driver, you're the one who must choose your vision of where you want to go. You have the best seat and the best view of your life, so it's up to you. You gotta have vision. So let me ask you, do you know where you want to go, George? George sat up straight, looking out the window, and noticed they were about a mile from his office building. He didn't have a clue where he wanted to go. He just knew he didn't want to be where he was anymore. Joy had known it before George even thought it. A man with a vision has a certain look in his eye, a walk in his step. He walks like he knows where he is going and why he is going there. And George didn't walk like that. "I know we're almost at your office," Joy said, "but I want you to read something before you get off. It's something that inspired me to call this the energy bus." She reached into her bag next to her seat and pulled out a children's book with a graphical picture of a bus on the cover with the words "Energy Bus" on it. "It's a children's book," George said, very frustrated, as he wondered why in the world she would want him to read a children's book right now. "I know, that's what I love about it. You see, life is simple. But in all our stuff, we make it complicated and become blinded to the simple truths. But it's the simplest lessons in life that are often the most profound and meaningful. So don't scoff at a children's book or the simple rules I share with you, because one of the most important things you can ever realize is that the closer you get to truth, the simpler and more powerful the lessons become. Yes, the rules are simple, but as you will realize, they mean everything. So read, George, read." Feeling a little embarrassed, George started to read nonetheless, and at once he was transported in his own mind to his house reading his children the book. "This is your energy bus. You're the driver. Did you know that you can take your bus anywhere you want to go? Say yes with me 3 times. Yes, yes, yes. You can take it to the movies, the beach, or the North Pole. Just say where you want to go and believe that it will be so. Because every journey and ride begins with a desire to go somewhere and do something. And if you have a desire, then you also have the power to make it happen." The bus stopped, and Joy turned to George. "So, where do you desire to go, George?" "What's your vision?" she asked, as she handed him a piece of paper. "Once you know this, all the other rules will fall into place." George sat at his desk looking at the piece of paper Joy had given him. At the top of the page were instructions from Joy. "First decide what you want, George. Then you can start creating it. Don't let the world create you. You create your world. Complete these questions and we'll talk about them on the bus tomorrow." It had 3 sections on it, with a space for him to write, and it looked like this. 1. My vision for my life, including my health, is. 2. My vision for my work, career, job, and team is. 3. My vision for my relationship and my family is. Chapter 8. It's all about energy. When bus number 11 pulled up to George's bus stop the next morning, he watched a man run off the bus and then turn around and shout, "You're crazy, lady." "Oh yeah," Joy shouted back. "When you're ready to learn something on my bus, let me know." "What was that all about?" George asked as he took his usual seat. "He believes in the biggest illusion of our time," Joy answered. "Bigger than the illusion that the world is flat or that the sun moves east to west." "Illusion?" George paused. "What are you talking about?" "The illusion that we live in a physical world," she declared, with the confidence of a college professor. "You see, George, the universe is made of energy. Einstein taught us that." Danny lifted up a piece of paper. "See, George, E = mc squared, he said. Joy continued. "Einstein taught us that anything that is matter is energy. So all the physical stuff we see, and even our own bodies, are really made of energy. So this is an energetic universe we live in, and everything about us is energy. But you don't need to get deep and know anything about science to understand that life is all about energy," Joy said. "All you have to do is think about your own life. Think about the people who increase your energy and those who drain you. Think about the food you eat that make you feel great and those that make you want to take a nap. Think about the projects at work that energize you and those that burn you out. Everything is energy. It is found in our thoughts, the words we say, the music we listen to, and the people who we surround ourselves with. Are you with me, George?" "I am," answered George, who was thinking that he couldn't remember the last time anything at work had energized him. "Watch professional football or basketball on television," she continued, "and you'll always hear the announcers talk about the energy of the team, the energy of a player, or the energy of the fans. Walk into any arena or stadium and you can feel the energy of the crowd. It's like there's electricity in the air. Coaches often talk about how the players are on the same wavelength or how this team is just out of sync. They'll also say things like, "We're playing with a lot of energy tonight. It's all about energy, George." Have you ever worked with a colleague and you both knew what each other was going to say next? Or you said the same thing at the same time? Of course, George answered. Happens all the time. Or has your wife ever read your mind? Too many times, he said with a smirk. Energy of thought, she declared. Our thoughts are powerful because they are loaded with energy. That's why I asked you to write down your vision for your life, work, and family, she said. There is an energy to thought, and when you identify what you desire and write down your vision, you begin the process of mobilizing the energy of thought to create the life you want. After all, you can't go somewhere if you don't have a vision of where you want to go. It's like trying to build a house without a set of plans and a picture of what the house is going to look like. It's like me driving this bus with no clue where my destination is. So, George, please tell me you have a vision. Tell me where you want to go. I hope you wrote it down on the paper I gave you. Chapter 9. George shares his vision. George, in fact, did have a vision, several of them, and he had written them down. He pulled out the paper from his briefcase and explained to Joy that at first it had been a little hard to do this because it had been so long since he had thought about what he wanted. I spend so much of my time living my life according to everyone's demands that it actually felt strange to think about what I want, he told her. But once I got started, it felt really good to think about what I wanted for my life. She nodded, reassuring him with her big eyes and smile. Go on, George, do tell. He told her about his vision for his personal life, how he had been a star college athlete who played lacrosse, and now he wanted to get back into great shape and get rid of his big gut that hung over his belt. He explained how thinking about his vision made him remember a time in the past when he had been really happy and alive, and how he wanted to feel that way again. He told Joy about wanting to be a better father and a husband as well. I want my kids to look back 20 years from now and think of me as a happy, positive influence in their lives, he shared. That's not the case now, so I know something has to change. What about your wife, Joy asked. What is your vision there? I want my wife to stay married to me, he said. I have this vision of us laughing together like we used to, remembering why we fell in love in the first place. Oh, you are such a romantic, Joy said, teasing him. She knew he had a good heart. She had liked him the moment she had seen him get on her bus, and had known buried underneath all those dark clouds was a light that wanted to shine. She was thrilled to see that light coming through as he shared his vision with her. George, who was blushing now, however, didn't feel like a romantic at all. On the contrary, he was petrified of losing his marriage. So he explained to Joy his situation and his hope that things would turn around. They will improve, Joy assured him, but George didn't share her confidence. Just trust, she said calmly. Trust. Then she broached the subject of work and his vision for success at the NRG company. George shared with Joy how he and his product marketing team had a big launch coming up for his new light bulb called the NRG 2000. If it doesn't go well, I'm toast. My career is done. So my vision is to somehow get my team on the same page and work really hard together to create and deliver a successful launch. On a scale of 1 to 10, how ready would you say you are for this product launch, Joy asked. About 2, answered George. We're disorganized, unmotivated, and quite frankly, a sorry bunch. That's not good, dude, Marty shouted back from the back of the bus. No, it's not good at all, George answered, thinking he wished the dude in the back of the bus would just be quiet. Joy jumped into the conversation. No, it's not good, George, but that don't mean it can't be good. It's not like we haven't faced crises before in my bus. She looked at Marty. Remember your rehab, Marty? And when Danny had that heart attack, what turned it all around was your desire and vision to change and the focus to make it happen. Unfortunately, it takes a crisis for so many of us to change, she added. I don't know why, but it does. I wish more people wouldn't wait for everything to fall apart before they start thinking about their life and what they want. They don't have to wait, you know. But sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes we have to see what we don't want to know what we do want. As she was talking, George thought of his mother with cancer and how she had told him all the changes she wanted to make when she survived. Then he knew exactly what Joy was talking about. So yes, George, Joy continued, this is your crisis, but it is also your opportunity. Every crisis offers an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser, to reach deep within and discover a better you that will create a better outcome. So while this is your crisis, what matters most is what you do with it. Okay, so now you know where you want to go and you have a desire and vision, you are ready for rule number 2.